I don't like to normally be overflowing with optimism before a new coaching regime actually coaches in its first game, but this one is a little different. We're going to talk about why the Mountaineers have such a bright future under head coach Rich Rodriguez today on Between The Eers. How are we doing, everyone? Zac Alley here with another episode of Between the Eers. And before we get started, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button here on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI. We greatly appreciate all the support throughout the offseason to make this thing possible, as well as going into the 2025 football season. Also, wanted to know if you or anybody knows of anybody that would be willing to sponsor this show, please let them know. And or if it is you that is a local business owner wants to be a part of this show, please reach out to me on X at Callahan _ for any details and information, and we can maybe hammer something out as we get started for the new season. And also some opportunities potentially on our other shows, which are the Walk Thru GameDay Show, which will air every Thursday throughout the football season. Here Between the Eers will be every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And, of course, the Mountaineer Postgame, which will go up immediately after the game ends. So, as I told you guys the other day, I kind of had an idea as to what I wanted to talk about today, talk about tomorrow. We'll see if that stays for the second part of this. But I kind of wanted to leave it open-ended. I didn't want to get too committal with it because I didn't know what could happen in the last couple of days. Obviously, some news did break. The four players that we've been talking about a bunch here have finally gone to the courts, as we called for the other day, and said they need to do this. Well, they're going to court to try and get their eligibility for their final year. So we'll keep an eye on that. Any updates we'll have on our website at West Virginia on SI. And that's that. But the one thing I really wanted to talk about was the future of this program with Rich Rodriguez at the helm. And I'm glad I waited. I was going to do this on Sunday, but I'm glad I waited because Nicco Marchiol, he talked to the media following Monday morning's practice. And, well, let's just say it kind of helped my cause here. Let's take a listen here from the Mountaineer quarterback.
Hard edge is a lifestyle. I think it's everyone talks about having a culture and having, you can have all these good buzzwords that sound really well, but it's an entirely different thing to live it. And this team, I think, really, really embodies hard edge. We're getting better at it every single week, but like I said, hard edge is not something that you do one day and don't do another day. It's something that you live by, and like Coach Rod says, once you learn it, you never want to go back to your old lifestyle. So I'm really, really grateful to have mentors like we have here, just enforcing rules that'll stay with us for the rest of our lives.
And that right there, folks, is exactly what I'm talking about. Now, you could sit there and say it's just the quarterback, trying to say all the right things and do everything he can, even in front of the media, to try and, earn some brownie points or whatever with Rich Rod, but that's not the case. If you guys know Nicco Marchiol, you know that's not who he is. And the whole spiel of this is that I think to be successful in college football at places like WVU, you have to have the right people in charge. That's from the head coach, the strength coach, the GM now is a thing, the athletic director, the president. They all have to be the right people. You have to know what buttons to push, what things to go for in terms of off the field things, whether it's facilities, recruiting, selling the program to somebody in a recruiting pitch. And to me, we all know Rich Rod, the X's and O's are off the charts good. He's always had a phenomenal offense, and as he talked about yesterday, like defensively, he's had some really good defense throughout the years. His first time here with Jeff Castile, they were a pretty stout defensive group, and he's had some other defenses over the years at other stops that have helped be, or helped produce 9-10 win teams. For Rich Rodriguez, though, it's all about the hard edge mindset and the hard edge mentality. And I know fans probably get a little nauseous sometimes when we talk about this because it's talked about so much, the hard edge, hard edge, hard edge, earn success, those little slogans that he throws around. But like Nico said, it's more than just a buzzword. It is truly how he operates. It is who he is. And that's the type of football that they want to play here under Rich Rod. And if you remember back during the coaching search, I said the type of coach the Mountaineers need is somebody that's going to be tough, hard-nosed, gritty, all that kind of stuff, but no nonsense BS. Somebody that's going to hold players accountable and set a standard that we're going to be doing things a certain way. And if you're not, adhering to it, if you're not buying into it, then guess what? You're probably not going to see the field. There's one way to play football. But it's not just what Nico said. It's also what defensive coordinator Zac Alley said a couple of days ago when he talked to the media. Let's hear from him.
It's the standard of how everything goes every day. It's Coach Rod is really good at, there's only one way to do things if you want to win. And if you don't do that every single day, then that's not okay. And I think that's something that I noticed early on, with him that I've tried to keep myself, something I do, all the time, that there's only one way we're going to do things that I know from experience leads to success. And so this is how it's going to be done if you want to succeed. And I think he does a great job of just holding everyone to that standard. And I think he's masterful in how he goes about it, between the, sometimes the intensity between, yelling at guys and screaming and then loving them up too, and because everybody gets coached a little bit, individually, you would say, to what helps them learn, help them get developed. And, I think Coach Rod does a great job of balancing those things really well.
And that's what I mean by having the right people in charge. It's Rich Rodriguez. It's Zac Alley. It's having that same vision, that alignment. And I can tell you from having covered the Carolina Panthers over the last 5 years that alignment means more than anything, especially in football. You have to have people that are on the same page, have the same vision, and want to accomplish the same thing. If you don't have that, or if you feel like your way of doing things is slightly better, or you think there's another way to go about doing certain things to get to the ultimate goal, then the person you're working with, I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. You're not going to get there. That's why the Panthers have shuffled through head coaches more than people change clothes and shoes and whatever. It's the same reason why they've gone through GMs and other executive positions. It's nuts down there. But having this mindset is exactly what West Virginia needs. David Pollock, former ESPN College Game Day analyst, Georgia linebacker, he talked about it on Twitter the other day. He came across that video of where Rich Rod was complaining about the running backs tapping out. You know what I mean? And he said that this is the type of nonsense, old school coach that West Virginia needed like oxygen. And he's not wrong, folks. Like, this program was desperate of some hope and optimism and energy. And they needed that injected into the veins of this program. And they got that just with the simple hire of Rich Rodriguez. They are bringing a certain mentality back that had not existed in a very long time. Doesn't have to be that type of mentality for a coach to be successful, but here I think it makes a little bit of a difference. And back to what I was saying, I kind of got a little off track earlier, was that, West Virginia needed a certain style of coach, and I pointed out as Dan Campbell as the perfect example. If you could go out there and find a Dan Campbell-esque coach, that guy would be the perfect fit for this job. And Rich Rod kind of bounced around in my head early on, like the moment Neil Brown was fired, and I was like, yeah, Rich Rod might make sense. Nobody thought Rich Rod was a serious thing. Nobody thought that was a serious thing the moment Neil Brown was fired. It took a couple days. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, damn, like Rich Rod is basically the college version of Dan Campbell. And I think that's the most exciting thing because you know that players are going to be held accountable. You know that there's going to be a certain standard, and guys are going to play their tails off, not just because they have to, but because that's who they're going to become. You're in this program. If you're not going to become a part of this mentality, you're not going to be a part of it. It's going to be a part of their DNA, their fiber. That's what this program is going to be built on. And I believe that's why this thing is going to get turned around. Is it going to happen in 2025? I really don't know, guys. Like I believe there's some things there that can potentially spark like an interesting 8 or 9 win season. Are they going to get to the college football playoff? Probably not. But again, I've said 100 times here on articles, I don't think that should be the expectation. The expectation should be that they play competitive football. That even in the games that they lose, they're playing their hearts out. They're playing with maximum effort, and you can see the hard edge mentality on the field. If that's what happens in 2025 and they win a handful of games, they go 5-7, they go 6-6 or 7-5, and they play with that style and that sort of energy and tenacity, then that's how you know this thing is going to start to turn the corner and then eventually take off. Because in the last 6 years, the one thing this team and this program lacked bigger than anything was an identity. Offensively, defensively, special teams, collectively, they just didn't have an identity. I mean, I don't know how many episodes of Between the Eers and the post-game show I would come on here and just question what was going on. What was the end goal? What was the vision? What are they trying to accomplish? I didn't know half the time. And I don't know that some of the folks in that building knew half the time. Not talking just the coaches, but the players too. I don't even know that they knew what the end goal was. What are we trying to accomplish on every play, every game, every week, every season? I don't think there was a true identity with that team under that previous leadership. With this one, you know what it is. You know what it is the first day you step on campus. Actually, you know it before that ever even happens. You know it the first time you meet Rich Rodriguez and consider West Virginia as a potential destination for you. You know what it's going to be. It's completely different from probably most places in college football. But when you have your quarterback, or a quarterback, I shouldn't say your quarterback yet, still an ongoing competition. But when you have a quarterback like that, and Nicco Marchiol, that understands it, he not only lives it, but he speaks it. That in itself means a lot. When you have a defensive coordinator that lives it and speaks it, that means a lot. You see where I'm going with this, folks? Like this is what I'm talking about. Having that alignment, having that same vision. That is what takes programs to the next level. That's why I feel like West Virginia is going to get back on track. I don't have a timeline for this. I don't have a magic 8-ball or some sort of time machine that's going to tell me exactly when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. It's not an if, it's a when. The Mountaineers are going to get back. And again, for 2025, it's just about setting the foundation. Even in today's era, it's about setting the foundation, setting the culture, which is a word that everybody talks about, every single coach, every player. Fans probably are sick of hearing that too. Culture, culture, culture. But there is a reason why everyone talks about it. You have to have a strong one. On the field, off the field, in the locker room, in the meetings, everywhere. That has to happen in year one. It doesn't have to be winning 8 or 9 or 10 games in year one. It's playing a certain brand of football every snap, every down, every week, in building towards what you want to ultimately become. We already know they're at a major disadvantage because of the newcomers, because of how many transfers there are, how many guys that are coming from whatever different backgrounds and levels of football, from FBS Power 4 to Group of 6, FCS JUCO, D2, D3 even. Like, these guys are coming from everywhere with all different sorts of teachings and backgrounds. They're going to have to mesh all that together here in the next 3 weeks. It's not going to be easy. But you want to see that little bit of progress every single week. And if you get to November and December when they're potentially playing for a bowl game, you want to see a much better, more oiled machine then than you do now in the first couple of weeks of September. Or August and September, I should say. And that should happen. But that's going to be the difference. Does this team make progress? Do they play competitive football? Because even in year 6 of the previous regime, they weren't playing the most competitive football, especially in some of those games. Texas Tech. So it's about playing competitive football, winning some games, understanding what it's going to take to win. What does winning look like? You can see how other teams go and find ways to win games. How do you get there? You got to take this hodgepodge of newcomers and throw it all into a bag and hope it works. But at the end of the day, this season alone, it's going to come down to effort, passion, grit, toughness, all the things that wrap back under that hard edge umbrella. So that's going to do it for me today, folks. No soapbox today. I'm getting you all hyped up. We'll see how things turn out in 2025. But again, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button here on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI. Again, if you or you know somebody that wants to help sponsor this show, please reach out to me on X at Callahan_. And that'll do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Between The Eers.